Retro World Toys and Games YouTube channel. Right now we are on our way. It is the very first ever investigative reports by me. It's a great story. It involves who actually created and came up with the idea for wrestling action figures. If you watch the show on Netflix, and I may have already emailed the producer about some possible changes he might have coming, they gave you a history of the wrestling figure. Not accurate at all. Where we're going right now, we're going to interview the person. He has the proof, he has the evidence. I've seen it all before, and I'm going to bring it to you again now. His name is Mr. Dick Durwald. He was a wrestling promoter out of the Buffalo, New York area, and he had sent a proposal to LJN to make a wrestling action figure for kids. I've seen the correspondence. I've seen his proposal. I've known this man for 20 years, and he showed me his proposal. He showed me the response from LGN. He showed me the check that they sent him, and all of the information that they were sending him throughout production. I've seen it all, but now I'm going to show it all to you, and we are going to change the history of how the action figure that was my entire childhood and even my adulthood as an adult collector, that's what I'm going after now, even to this day, was all the brainchild of this smaller time wrestling promoter in Buffalo, New York. But we're going to interview him. He's quite the character, so you'll be entertained by that as well. And I'm going to show you the proof, the evidence, it's all there. We are going to rewrite the history of the wrestling action figure right now. Welcome to the Retro World Toys and Games YouTube channel. Like promised, I am a private investigator now. I'm gathering all the info. I'm knocking down the doors of all the people that count, and I'm going to make stories go back to the way they should be. I'm going to change history and rewrite it. Here today, like I said, the history of wrestling figures is not the way you think. There was a Netflix special, all wrong. They seem to give credit. They seem to leave out the most important part as to where it originated. I know the truth. As you know, I'm a former professional wrestler. Wrestled for 20 years all over the world. In that time, I met a local wrestling promoter in the Buffalo, New York area. His name was Richard Durwald. And I remember as a kid, he was showing me that he had invented the wrestling figure. It was his idea, and he worked the deal with LJN. And I thought to myself, oh, that's pretty cool. I loved those as a kid. And he took me to his house, and he showed me the contracts, the paperwork, the check that LJN wrote them. And we have it all here along with Mr. Durwald. So we are going to go over everything. We're going to expose everything, and we are going to change the history of the LJN action figure and get it the recognition to where it belongs, which is with Mr. Durwald. Now, Mr. Durwald, obviously I've known you 25 years. We've always been close, always stuck tight.
You've also never called me Mr.
I always call you Mr. Or just Durwald. I call Richie Durwald sometimes. Like, hey, Durwald. Yeah. But obviously, and you met me when I was really young.
Yes.
Just starting out wrestling.
Yes.
I was a bit of a douche. I've apologized to you 1,000 times for being a douche, but you took it like any father figure would. You're like, yeah, I know, you were a kid. Stop apologizing. Love you. Exactly. So that was awesome, and it got us so close. And I was sitting there the other day. I collect these figures. I have a business. I have a toy store where I sell these. These are the hottest item in the aftermarket today. Wow. They sell like hotcakes. I have a whole collection of them. And I was sitting there one day thinking, I saw that Netflix special, which was me. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. Mr. Durwald showed me everything that makes it his intellectual property. So really, I would like to just expose that. But start off by telling everybody who you are, what got you started, and just get us to the point of how you came up with this idea. But start with your Mr. Fitness days, because I think that leads into who we are and how we knew each other.
Okay. Very, very quickly. Growing up, I was not a good athlete. Couldn't make any of the teams at school. I realized the importance of exercise, diet, that type of thing. And so the guy that couldn't athletics actually became a competitive bodybuilder.
I remember, I know that.
Yeah, and I won some pretty nice trophies and things, some of them up there and some of them upstairs. And then because I did so well at bodybuilding, I thought to myself, I was probably stronger than the average kid, 18, 19 years old.
I've seen the trophies.
And I said, I think I'm going to take a shot at wrestling, which I did. And
Who trained you, Mr. Durwell?
there was a long gone. There was a place down on Broadway in Buffalo, New York, and they had a wrestling ring in the back. And believe it or not, that place was there since the 1930s.
Wow.
And the kind of people that came out, like the Tolis brothers,
Yeah.
were at Maddie's, and they learned everything down there. And they had wrestling every Saturday night. They had a ring, and they had the bleachers around it. It was great. And I learned a lot there. And because of the exposure I got there, this is even before Pedro Martinez. Ed Don George, who was a former world champion, was also the promoter in Buffalo.
Before Pedro.
Before Pedro. And I guess he heard about me, and I guess I did fairly well, so he started booking me at some of the smaller towns during the summer.
Nice.
And then ultimately Pedro Martinez bought it, and I worked for Pedro. I worked all over the Northeast, really, especially New York State and down into Ohio.
So that was the National Wrestling Federation.
It was the NWA at that time, yeah.
Oh, it was part of the NWA.
Yeah, I wrestled, yes. I think Pedro was, that's why he would use the NWA champions, like Lou Thez.
Yeah, Lou Thez was in town a lot.
Exactly, and that's the reason for it. And then we go down to Cleveland. I wrestled Fritz von Erich, wrestled the Mighty Atlas. That's probably a name you don't even remember.
No.
Because it's from the 50s, and he was a big draw.
Really?
He was kind of a carnival strongman. He did a lot of neat stuff.
Cool.
And I wrestled some of the really big stars.
I know you wrestled Whipper Watson.
Of that area.
Yeah.
No, it was, I'm kind of happy to say I
That's great.
met a lot of, and the wonderful thing about it, Jason, is you're just a kid from Buffalo, you're watching television, and the next year you're sitting in the car
Traveling with
the people that
I know.
you were idolizing.
I've done it throughout the years. I've wrestled. I got knocked out and had my hair cut by Bruce Beefcake. I've taken a Superfly from Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah.
And I lost. I turned into a 5-year-old kid while I was in the air, and as you know, and kayfabe's kind of gone now anyway.
Oh sure.
So I was laying on the mat, and when Superfly comes off, you got to sit up and absorb the impact. I turned into a 5-year-old, and as he was in the air, I'm like, I'm taking a Superfly. I marked out like an idiot, and Jimmy's in the air going, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up. And all of a sudden he was there, and it hurt so bad. But it was awesome. I took a Superfly. Now, when you were in the NWF and the NWA era with Pedro Martinez, did you fight for any titles in that era?
No.
There's something really cool. All of those titles that Pedro had went to Japan, became part of another belt. One of them came back to the U.S., the NWF United States Championship. Do you remember which title I won at the Riverworks event?
Was that the title?
Last time you were there? That was the one.
The title.
So I won Pedro Martinez's original NWF United States Championship.
Was that also the original belt?
No.
Oh.
No, the original belt is in Japan.
All right.
As part of something else. So let us know.
There you go.
So we're back, and Mr. Durwell, what I want to catch up to next is bring us up to date. Bring us up to around 1983.
All right.
How did you get this idea? Obviously, this is your brainchild. Birth the brainchild for us right now.
All right. It was almost an accident. Maybe I like to discover
Most things are.
like penicillin.
Yeah. Right. It's usually how it is.
So at that time, Rich was getting to an age too, because I got Richie into bodybuilding. Richie being my son, of course. I got him into bodybuilding. And I thought, gee, I wonder. I've been off wrestling for a long time, but I got the itch. It's something that never leaves you.
I can't walk, and I have the itch right now.
It's almost an addiction.
It is.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, and especially I thought we could work tag team together. Okay. And he had these other action figures that sold like Batman and Superman and things along this line. So to show him tag team, because as you know, tag team is much more complicated.
Oh yeah, it's
and
a totally different
than
psychology.
one-on-one. So I started showing them on a table like we're sitting at here, and showing them, okay, here, if you're here, make sure this guy's here. You know, all
the hot tag.
I showed them all those type of things.
Did you teach him the Louisiana two-step or whatever that thing is?
Whatever he was doing, I don't know. But anyway, I looked at that table. This is like the first or second time I did it. These should be figures
Imagine that was the Iron Sheik.
of the wrestling.
Imagine that was Hulk Hogan.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
amazing.
And I just came to him, I said, like, that would be a big seller. Because wrestling was really getting bigger and bigger all the time. In fact, I was surprised. It's bigger than I've ever known it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. So at any rate, I sat down, I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to a fellow by the name of, well, first of all, I walked around to the stores and find out who did action figures, and there wasn't really a lot of stuff going on then. G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe,
Yeah, but there
Hasbro
was-
had G.I. Joe.
Yeah, exactly. That
My
was-
other love of toys.
Yeah, then that was a biggie. But I went around and I saw LJN had a couple of smaller items. They really weren't all that much.
What did they have at the time?
I don't know. I can't remember.
They had a couple things.
They had a
Yeah.
couple of things, Jason. You're
Licenses,
absolutely right.
other TV shows, movies.
Yeah.
That was their big thing because they were linked to the movie studio. They were part of that movie studio.
Well, you know more. You know more about LJN right now than I do.
Just about.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Especially trying to hunt down all these sons of
And I
bitches.
wrote this guy a letter. This Dan Muldoon, his name was. He says, I says, who's in charge of new projects, new toys? Dan Muldoon.
You wrote a letter.
Yeah, but
Well, there was no email, yeah.
yeah, no, so email. I could have sent it by carrier pigeon.
I've seen that work.
Yeah, yeah. So that was about the best I could do. And Muldoon actually, here's the Muldoon letter right here.
Well, you know what? I'm going to put, take a look at this picture right here. I'm going to put it up for you on the screen right now.
Please.
Let me pop it down. Let me take
Sure.
a picture real quick because what I'm going to do is afterwards we're going to add it right in there.
Right.
And they'll be able to see it up close. Now, what you're looking at right now is a letter from
Me.
Mr. Durwald to Dan Muldoon saying attaches a proposal for Masters of the Mat action figures. I don't know if you can see that there. Basically, this is Mr. Durwald pitching to LJN, Dan Muldoon at LJN.
Yeah.
He's pitching him, attaches my proposal for Master of the Mat.
That's the proposal.
I'm going to read just a couple snippets here and
Sure.
there, just so that people can get a feel of what a proposal like this is like. Professional wrestling, it's enjoyed a great deal of popularity in the 50s. Today is a direct result of cable television, which I'm surprised you really knew that at the time, because that was only people in the know knew that it was cable television.
Right.
And everything. So, of course, Mr. Durwald, always ahead of the curve. Not surprised at all. It is currently attracting record crowds in arenas throughout the country and is attracting consistently huge television viewing audience. An example of this demand TV exposure can be illustrated by looking at a typical week of television here in Buffalo, New York, the week beginning Sunday, May 27th, 1984.
1984.
Wow. There's a picture of, and I'm going to put that up for you now. This is the programming that you could have seen right there.
Yep.
Anytime you turn it, pretty much any time of day, any time of week, any time at all, there was wrestling. And I remember that as a kid.
Sure.
And it wasn't just one promotion. We had AWA,
Oh, yeah.
WCCW,
Oh, absolutely.
NWA,
Yep.
WWF.
Yep.
So this is him pitching. I want to go to the part back here. All the major stars work for one of these three promotional groups. It is suggested that the initial contact be made with New York City-based promotional organization WWF, Capital Wrestling Incorporated, and the operations executive of that organization, Mr. Vince McMahon. In 1984, people didn't know Vince McMahon was the owner. They thought he was the announcer. Of course, Durwald, ahead of the game, not surprised at all. Most of the top wrestling stars work as free agents, but the promoters of the three various organizations, WWF, NWA, and AWA, such as Mr. McMahon, could provide contact with selected wrestling personalities to make necessary arrangements and permission to manufacture and market the wrestling action figures. So this, as Mr. Durwald's pitching this to LJN, you're seeing how he's telling them, go Vince McMahon, he's the one. Go to him. Suggested dolls include Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, Iron Sheik. I remember reading this when I was in my 20s. I remember reading this very section right there. So you're telling them basically who's...
Why and who?
Yeah, exactly. And then the other promoters along with Vince McMahon are NWA, Gordon Soley, Atlanta, NWA, Bob Geigel, St. Louis, AWA, Vern Gagne, Minneapolis, Minnesota. What's his name? Jim Crockett, who just passed away, was
Yes,
Mid-Atlantic.
That's correct.
That's right. When I first started off, I start off in the Mid-Atlantic
Oh.
territory. There were still
Just
some
not
remnants of
know
that
that.
territory around then. I'm dating myself as to how old I am. Normally, toys are advertised in traditional TV programs, such as Saturday morning cartoons. The television time currently devoted to the presentation of professional wrestling offers a perfect backdrop to promote the sale of the wrestling action figures. I would have made wrestling figures after reading this. Even if I hated wrestling, I'd have been like, well, you can't lie about that. You got the times, you got everything here. There is no question that the design, manufacture, and distribution of the wrestling action figures, Mr. Rowan, will prove to be a high-volume, high-profit item. I don't know about that. What's the number one selling toy to this day? LJN's from 1984.
Wow.
Well, 85 they came out.
Wow.
Yeah. To this day, that's the hottest selling toy.
Do we have the last page, Jason, where I had the lady next door who was a notary. Ah!
Oh yeah, we're getting there.
Here she is.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Right here, and I already got a picture of this. I'm gonna put it right up for you all at home now. Declaration of Originality. The intent of this document is to substantiate and validate the fact that Richard J. Durwald, and your address, has conceived and submitted to Mr. Dan Muldoon, representative of the LJN Toy Company, located in New York City, the idea of producing and marketing action figures in the likeness of current professional wrestling stars. These action figures will be sold as toys. Signed there, Richard J. Durwald, originator. Marie Coleman, witness. Carol Kessler, notary public.
That's correct.
So that's the proposal that was given. Now, Mr. Durwald, explain now. You sent that off, obviously very excited.
Yeah.
What was your first? How long did it take them to get back to you?
Not real
Spoiler
long time.
alert: they got back to him.
Oh no, they did, and Muldoon got back to me.
Muldoon himself.
Yeah, on the phone, unfortunately, not in writing. And he said, Mr. Durwald, thank you for submitting it. He says, some people actually like the idea. He says, but the thing, we deal with bigger audiences, with bigger concepts. You know, it's not like Star Wars. You couldn't compare professional wrestling to Star Wars. I said, no, that's right, you can't. And besides, the people that follow wrestling may not be inclined to buy action figures. Your point earlier, you had a very good point.
They look down on
They look down on it. Yes, I says, well, I thought I had something. He says, well, no, but I wish you the best of luck. He was very nice. And I was a little, heartbroken.
Oh, yeah.
And I says, okay, Dan, well, thank you for calling. And that was the end of it. About 2 or 3 weeks passed. LJN says, Richard, says, my name is Karen Weiss. I'm from the LJN Toy Company. I says, yes. She says, do we have your permission? Do we have your permission to proceed with the concept that you've sent in? I says, yeah. I talked to Dan Muldoon, and he said that that wasn't a type of thing that LJN did. So she says, and then she kind of trashed Muldoon. When something is presented negatively, you'll get a negative response. I'm your champion here. I'm the one that's going to back your cause. She says, I think this is a great idea. I want to go ahead with it.
Mr. O, real quick, just so you know, we're filming this interview. We're going to get all the information out there for everybody to see right away. But there's going to be more added on after this. All these names and information you're giving me, I'm contacting these people.
It's wonderful.
I'm bringing them out. I'm calling them out. Whoever's alive, I'm skip tracing. I'm finding your number. I will show up at Karen Weiss's house if she's alive. I will get a Ouija board and go to her gravesite if I have to. But I'm going to get every single one of these people to back up everything we're saying today. Whoever's alive, whoever knows,
Well,
we're going after it all.
You really don't
Just
even
so
need it because I've got everything from her in writing, including the contracts. Yeah, I got everything.
Never cease to amaze me, Mr. Durwell. Never cease to amaze me.
So
where did it go from there? Now Karen Weiss contacted you, said, screw that guy.
yeah,
I'm the one that's going to take this over, and I see the vision.
I'm your person in this
So she saw your vision. That was a
Absolutely.
kick-ass proposal, by the way.
Thank you.
I went to school. I owe a lot in student loans to learn how to write like that. And you just killed that thing.
Thank you.
I would have made it somehow.
Thank you. But at any rate, it was a week or two passed by. Picked up the phone. It was I remember it was lunchtime. It was on a Saturday. And Richard, are you sitting down? I says, yeah. I says,
Is this Karen?
Karen Weiss.
Karen Weiss?
I said, yes. She was like, I got great news. We're going to go ahead with your idea. I said, oh, that's wonderful. And I got better news. We're going to give you $10,000.
Yeah, bullshit.
I said, oh, that's great. I says, and I meant it.
Yeah,
I wasn't
of
being
course.
facetious. I meant it. And I says, then royalties and things that I know that go with toys. She goes, oh, no. She says, if you knew anything about the toy business, I said, well, I guess you got me there. I don't know a lot about it.
Of course.
She says, here we are. We're already in September, whatever it was. All our toys are manufactured. They're being boxed. The graphic designers are doing the box. I said, oh, okay. She says, every year, though, we have a filler item. A couple of filler items just to round out the product line. And I think this would be a nice filler item. So I said, so there won't be any kind of royalties or revenues? No, but you're getting $10,000. I said, okay. I says, well, thank you for working on, on my behalf. And she says, we're going to send you a contract, which I have.
Actually, pop that over. I'm gonna.
I should have put these in order before we started, Jason.
No,
I apologize for
How
that.
about that, dude?
You and I were actually looking at it a few minutes ago. Right?
Yeah, we were going through. We were looking at them all. Well, I have the contract. I have the pictures.
I have the
there.
yeah.
I'm going to show you those pictures now. I'm going to put just a glimpse of it on the screen. I'm not going to give obviously everything, but I'm going to show you that the contract is here. It is from LJN
Oh yeah.
to Mr. Richard Durwald, this lovely man right here, saying, this is your idea. We're going to pay you your $10,000. This is your idea. Thank you. That right there, there's no smoking gun needed. There is no smoking gun. This is all the paperwork that somehow never made it onto Netflix.
Oh,
Somehow
no.
it never made it into the history of this product.
Well, I'm
in
sure
any way.
that LJN didn't.
LJN certainly didn't divulge any information.
I would hope not. No.
Well, you know why? I think they tried to make it look like the Gloob guys were more responsible for the brainchild of this. And that story, somebody there had to have known this. Because there's no way that all this proof is here and nobody knows it.
Oh no. of
I
course
think
not.
they knew it, but as we all know, working in Hollywood and working on TV, just to keep a story going a certain way,
Right.
Sometimes you cut some things out. Which, when you're trying to present a history of something, as if it's educational or history,
Yep.
you cannot leave out where it actually started. I think they wanted to look like the Galoob guys had the brainchild first. But then you notice in the story, the Galoob guys went to Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon said, "Oh, I'm already working with someone
Yeah.
on that." So that right there shows that there was an idea before that.
I was already excited starting to watch that, but I said to myself, I watched the same thing you did on Netflix. I said, don't tell me that they really told everybody that.
I wasn't that entertained by it personally. The
No,
G.I.
no.
Joe one was great.
Here's the contract. This is August the 3rd. And this is August the 6th.
All right, so you see me taking pictures here now.
Yeah,
What I'm going
yeah.
to do is I'm going to be posting these for you to see.
I also signed away the rights for things like the wrestling rings and any other things that connected to it. For example, like the belts they've sold, everything. That's all inclusive into $10,000.
Wow.
And I can get you some of those too, G.
Well, I want to see the part where. See, now this is from Karen Weiss. This is the sign off. down, make
That's
sure
correct.
that gets on there for everybody to
Of course,
see.
I sent it, then I sent it back to them.
Well, of course. Yeah, this is the one that they sent you.
Yeah.
The foreign sign is accepted and approved August 1984. So right there, and I'm putting this on the screen for you now, just these various snippets of this contract. You can see everything's there. LJN Toys has acknowledged and is paying Richard Durwald for his idea of wrestling action figures.
Yes.
Now, what I'm going to show you is, of course, the most important part. As you can see, signed from LJN. The check itself.
Mm-hmm.
This is the check for $10,000 that LJN Toys Limited had sent Mr. Richard Durwald for $10,000. This right here is all of the proof needed to show that the actual history of the wrestling action figure that we still collect today starts right here in Buffalo, New York, from a wrestling promoter and a former wrestler, bodybuilder, who was just trying to teach his kids some wrestling tag team psychology. Ended up having the brainchild, sent it to the right company because I think they did great with it.
Oh, yes.
Those figures, I mean, I love them. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
like
I know.
the nostalgia I get from seeing it or feeling it or smelling it, and all other adult collectors out there understand too. I was playing with them as a kid. I had no idea that literally 5 miles from my house was the guy who first. I didn't know that. I didn't know that this had anything to do
So
with
you're
as a
not
kid,
alone.
obviously.
Most people don't know it.
Well, nobody knows
What
it.
we're doing now is
Now everybody's going to know it.
35 years later.
Well, now everybody's going to know it. And obviously, Mr. Durwald knows. We're going to get a little bit into the history of lawsuits afterwards and how he tried to go after him. And there might have been some little shady stuff going on in the lawsuits. But we're going to investigate that even more later. But Mr. Durwald knows that the money's gone. It's not coming back. There's no money in this for him. We just want Mr. Richard Durwald to get the credit as being the father of these figures. He's been like a father to me. He's a father to Richie. And we want him to be recognized and known as the father of these toys that we still collect. How many years have they been off the market?
Quite a
88,
few.
1988,
Yeah.
89. We're still collecting them in 2021.
I know.
It's crazy, and nobody knows the actual history of it. I have reached out to the producers of the Netflix show, The Toys That Made Us. Obviously, they're not going to rework their whole show.
No, I don't.
But they do need to know that their history is off. And all I ask is that they do something, some kind of snippet somewhere, just kind of reiterating the exact history that starts right here with this proposal and ends right here with this check from LJN to Mr. Durwald for the rights to the product and showing that he signed off on everything since then, which is fine. We're not here for the money.
No.
Obviously. But we are here to make sure that the credit's given where it's got to go, which is Richard Durwald. Now, as you know, we're going to talk a little bit more, but after this interview ends, my job begins. I'm going to go through everything to find these people. I want to hear their stories on it. The Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. 2 awesome guys you would love, younger guys. They're wrestlers. They also collect toys. Like my store, I sell toys. They collect toys, and they have a ton of followers, and they love this stuff, and they love the history. And I have no doubt that they would want to help rewrite the history with us. We don't have as many followers, but they do. So hopefully, if we can get to them, they can help us get the story out there further.
That'd be wonderful.
And I'm still negotiating. I'm still talking to. I've sent really 1 email, and come Monday, the phone calls start getting pounded to the producers of The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. Because I think everybody looks at that show and the shows that they made. They're awesome shows. I wasn't as entertained by the wrestling one, personally, but I loved it. I even watched the Barbie one. I was like, God, I had no idea. But everybody looks at those shows as an absolute comprehensive history of what happened. It's incorrect. And if you could just acknowledge that publicly somehow it only helps his story too. Because now he's putting together the actual history for his own benefit in his own show. And I just think it's time that Richard Durwald gets credit for being the father of the wrestling action figure in general, not just LJN. Every
Well, that's
wrestling
right,
figure
yeah.
sold up until this day.
That's correct.
Started with your brain.
I know that.
Trying to show Richie. Was Richie even paying attention?
I know that.
Was he singing Elvis songs?
It's just like now he doesn't pay attention to me.
No, that's
it's
fine.
just the same.
That's fine. You still love him. All right.